See the sequoia seed, it's just 1.5 centimeter. That's all. See its size, and the scale is also there. Now, what comes out of this? You want to know? One of the biggest trees comes out of these seeds. When you sow it in the ground, this is the type of tree that comes out from this 1.5 giant sequoia tree. You can see how big it is in comparison to human being. It is almost 300 feet high. Mm. and and 29 meters. That is almost 100 feet in diameter trunk. You see, a van can go inside. So huge is the size. See, it's almost the height of Statue of Liberty in America. That's the height of this tree, which comes from a small, tiny seed. Therefore, we call it as a giant package in a tiny seed. So mm, now you ask yourself, this tiny seed from which such a huge thing is produced, did we put the potency in the seed to grow such a tree? We are only watching it. We are only seeing such miracles happen in front of our eyes. Similarly, you can see this is that was designed by Intel, and then you can see the human brain, which can carry more information than all the libraries in the world can hold. Now we'll show you something about the miracles happening in our brain. So many minute details. Actually, the scientists say even if you take one cell, we have actually trillions of cells in the body, but even if you take one cell in our body, it's more complex than the complex New York City. They say just one cell in the body. Like that, we have trillions of cells. So till now, we have been showing the macro world around us. Let's go to the micro world now. See the DNA molecule. Mm. So there are 14 lattice structures called Bravais lattice structures. That means all the atoms are very properly organized. You will see, for example, body-centered, simple cubic, body-centered cubic, face-centered cubic, orthorhombic. So these are all different structures in which all the atoms are arranged in different metals. And these are definite patterns. None of them is random. These 14 types of Bravais lattice structures are actually, like you all know very well, when Bohr gave the model, we can write about every metal as 1s2 2p6. We can write structure for each metal. It is identifiable, which means the arrangements of the atoms and molecules are also very precise. For example, we will show here. This is graphite. You all know graphite is very light and it is breakable. And you can see the diamond, which is number 10 in Mohs scale, the hardest material in the whole world. It is the hardest. Just see, graphite is porous and easily breakable, whereas diamond is the hardest and practically unbreakable. But you can see, and why this change happened? Because of a slight molecular change, which clearly shows that there are very precise molecular arrangement. If you slightly change the molecular angle also, a sweet smelling substance can become pungent smelling substance. And the color of the substance changes simply by slight change in molecule. So precise is the arrangement even with dead matter at the microscopic level. Yeah. So in this way, there's a meticulous design in the micro world. Now, when we throw a satellite in orbit, there are many parameters to be controlled. If you see, 24 hours round the clock, there are people in the control room monitoring it. Like you will see, these are the critical parameters. They have to take care, otherwise, you can't run a satellite. See, there are 7 factors given here. You see, there's a whole control room. Who will do what? Just for one satellite. Think about it. How many planets are revolving in this universe? Think about it. See, this is the weight of the Earth. The speed around the sun. This is the speed of the Earth. Now, who is monitoring it? We have to monitor our satellites, but who is monitoring this satellite around the sun? Who is in control? And by the way, are you aware that the Pluto planet was considered as the ninth planet sometimes, and sometimes as the eighth planet? Why? Because the orbit in which it revolves is not like concentric. In some of the areas it goes between the seventh and eighth planets, Uranus and Neptune. Pluto goes in between. Still, you have never heard of a history of now Pluto clashing with any other planet, and there was a disaster that it was powdered or something. You don't hear that. Because who is in control? Ask this question. Like there is a traffic policeman controlling the signal of the traffic. Similarly, the planets are all like satellites to the sun, and they are all controlled. There must be somebody controlling them, isn't it? See this Fibonacci, very, very important. Andrex, what happened? Okay.
Around 1200 AD, a man named Leonard Pisano, better known as Fibonacci, discovered a sequence of numbers that created a very interesting pattern. The sequence begins with the numbers 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and continues indefinitely. Each number is obtained by adding the last 2 digits together. A rectangle with a length and width of any 2 of the numbers of this sequence forms what is known as the golden rectangle, a perfect rectangle. A golden rectangle can be broken down into squares the size of the next Fibonacci numbers down and below. If we were to take a perfect or golden rectangle, break it down into smaller squares based on Fibonacci's sequence, and divide each with an arc, the patterns begin to take shape. We begin to see Fibonacci's spiral. The spiral in and of itself is insignificant. Its importance is revealed in where we find it. Take, for example, the sunflower. The display of its florets are in perfect spirals of 55, 34, and 21, the sequence of Fibonacci. The fruitlets of the pineapple create the same spiral based on the sequence. The pine cone does the same. As currents move through the ocean and the tide rolls onto the shore, the waves that bring in the tide curve into a spiral that can be mathematically diagrammed onto a plot at the points 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and 55. Buds on trees, sand dollars, starfish, petals on flowers, and especially the nautilus shell are formed with this exact same blueprint. With each segment of growth, the nautilus adds to itself one more value on Fibonacci's scale. This blueprint can be seen around us on a small scale every day, but the greatest example of all is directly above our heads. At an average of 100,000 light years across, even the spiral of the galaxies above us are formed with the exact design that the tiny shell is formed. This sequence or blueprint appears to be the trademark of a designer, a proof of a creator, something left behind indicating the one who was there, a fingerprint. As we scan our universe from the tiny flower to the awe-inspiring galaxy, we see the fingerprint of God.
You say, isn't it miraculous, isn't it? So this is called as God's signature. Why? Because you find this Archimedean spiral, you find the Fibonacci's equation. You find it in a sunflower. You find it in the ocean wave. You find it in pineapple. You find it in a seashell. You find it even in the galaxy above. So you can see how precisely this universe is constructed with intelligence. So the design, all these designs implies a designer. Otherwise, how can you have this design? Have you ever seen any design coming on its own? Ask yourself. If somebody says, for example, you go to Ashok Leyland or Bajaj Auto Company, there are two doors. In one door, you put rubber, glass, you know, you put iron, steel, all these different items, plastics, everything you put. Other side, you find a beautiful big vehicle, lorry coming out, or you find a Bajaj Auto vehicle coming out. So, ready-made vehicle, neatly made. Do you think it will come on its own? Huh? Do you think it's going to come on its own? Hmm? Hmm. So, in between, there are so many people involved. Their brains are involved, designs are involved, isn't it? Huh? From making such a design. Similarly, I showed you many examples now within this universe. So all these designs, such precise and intricate design, which is beyond our ability to design. For example, the planets revolving around the sun, Earth is revolving around the sun in 365.256 days, up to the third decimal. So precisely, and none of the people in NASA are controlling it from their control room. So in the same manner, you can see this God's signature here. So while designing the universe, he has designed it with this spiral, so that wherever there is spiral, he has used the same equation. This goes to show the giant brain of a very great intelligent being.